You want to know the best tip that I can give to you from my very own perspective of how to master this Nordic language with all its tradition? It is to be born here. I've been teaching Swedish on this channel for years now, and the most common question I often get is, how do I learn Swedish? I am not a Swede, how do I do it? And in order for me to answer that, I have teamed up with a bunch of people that have learned or are on their way towards learning Swedish, and we have a whole bunch of questions that we've asked them. And if you are a learner of Swedish, please put your best advices down in the comment section and let's help each other out. Now let's meet the people that I have met to talk about how they learn Swedish.
Hello, I'm Anna and I come from Spain.
My first name is Yassine, I'm from Bordeaux, France. I'm Sjors, I'm from the Netherlands.
I'm Natalia from Poland.
And then there's also Jerry, whom I filmed with over a year ago when I started this project. So my question to all my participants, why did you start learning Swedish?
Because I visited Sweden like 8 years ago, I think. I'm not sure. And I really liked it. I felt like home in here and I thought, well, maybe I can live in Sweden for a while. So yeah, I started learning Swedish.
Because I first moved to Sweden to do Erasmus thing, it was like 5 years ago, and then I never thought I would make any use of my little Swedish at the time, and then I ended up coming back from my PhD here, so I'm working in Swedish right now.
I moved here a couple of years ago, and first I was just working in restaurants and other hotels and businesses, but I didn't know that I was going to stay for quite a while. And now I got a full-time job at the university that made me learn Swedish, because I know that I'm going to stay here for the next couple of years. Yeah.
I don't know, maybe a little bit because of you, Martin. Actually, because I found your videos and I just, this language sounded really cool and beautiful for me, really melodic. And yeah, and Sweden sounded like a cool place for me. That's why.
Well, I had Swedish friends after having gone to your wedding and met many Swedish people, and I thought it's an interesting language to learn. I tried learning Italian and got bored of that, so I learned Swedish, and yeah, it was fun to learn.
And aside from the people I met in person, I also asked people online to answer some of the questions. So why did you decide to learn Swedish?
Yes, it's pretty strange for someone like me because, yeah, I live so far away. It started in 2014 when a friend of mine introduced me to a fantastic band who I really love, but sadly they are disbanded. They are called Kent, and I just wanted to find out what were they singing about. And upon doing that, I chanced upon the videos of Martin, the 10 Swedish words, and I said to myself, like, why am I just saying this? It's awesome, it's fun, it's educational. So until now, I'm still learning.
I'm learning Swedish because there is a person whom I really adore, and he is Polish, brought up in Sweden, so he speaks Swedish. It's his almost first language. So that's why I'm learning Swedish, to understand him better.
Dream is to eventually live there. And things I go so often, I think it's only right that I make an effort to talk to Swedish people in their own language.
We all have different reasons to why we do things, but my question is, how are you learning Swedish? What is your method?
Well, it was a bit difficult at first because I didn't know how to do it. But I started with the kind of sounds, and then I found some grammar books, and yeah, then I started using some apps and Martin videos, mixing everything there.
Well, many different ways and reasons. Like, let's say, first I had courses in Bordeaux because there are a few Swedes living in Bordeaux, and so there was this teacher giving lectures at the university, so evening courses. So I went fine with that. And then SVT, som du kan titta på utomlands, och det är jättenyttigt. And yeah, Duolingo as well, which is pretty nice. I don't know if you know about that. Yeah, it's super useful to learn the language, so you can train every day in the tube and stuff. So yeah, many ways.
Talk with my friends, some Swedish friends, or other people who are learning the language as well. When I was working in restaurants, I got more knowledge with Swedish words about food and about working in that business. But now I'm taking a study at the university, which is for employees, which is once a week. But it makes me develop good enough. But I should maybe engage more with people, practice better and more. Yeah.
I found that your videos about Swedish words and these languages sounded really beautiful for me and really melodic, some kind of music. And Sweden really sounded like a cool place to visit, cold and exotic in kind of way. And they have reindeers or moose.
I use Duolingo, the language learning app by the same man that invented the reCAPTCHA that you see on the websites that makes you click on lots of different crossroads. I wouldn't hold that against him. That allows you to do repeated lessons every day, progressing through a tree of different topics until eventually you reach the end of it, and then after that point you've learned all they have to offer.
Of course, hello Martin, and also other YouTubers, and I use an app. It's the persistent green bird one thing, yes.
I found biggest help for me was watching films and TV in Swedish with subtitles, because that way I'm watching everything that most of it I'm already familiar with in English, and hearing it in Swedish kind of puts any kind of language that I've already learned into context. So that helps quite a lot. Particularly like my favourite movies, like with Swedish dubbing. Just because I know what all the lines are going to be anyway. So hearing them in Swedish, I don't need the subtitles at that point. And it really does put everything into context.
I'm learning Swedish by myself, on my own. So it's YouTube, books, apps, Google, podcasts, Instagram.
Now, some people will have an easier time learning Swedish because their language resembles Swedish. But for those of you who don't have a knack for linguistics, what are the hard parts in learning Swedish?
I'd say it's getting the sounds right, because we have in Spanish we have like 5 vowels, and in Swedish maybe 12. I don't know. So it's really hard. At first, I kind of took some vowels at a time. Like this month, I'm gonna practice these 2 vowels. Like that, and also the melody, because in Spain, at least in southern Spain, I guess, we talked very kind of in a monotone, so it sounds like blah, 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 blah. And in Swedish it's like with a melody or something. So that's the hard part now.
Getting used to the weird sounds and letters that you guys use a lot, like the h, that like när du säger älvsjö till exempel, like we would say sjö all the time, and like so many in between words that like come all the time, like yo, I saw, like these come so randomly for us, you and so, yeah, that's really hard, I guess.
Well, I don't think it's personally I don't think it's a super difficult language actually. I think it's going fast, and because everything around me screams learn Swedish, and Swedish is everywhere, so that makes it relatively easy. I don't have that many complications. Yeah, I mean, we don't have the O with double dot or A with double dot or these kind of pronunciations, but it's going smooth, yeah.
Pronunciation and a little bit grammatic, but yeah, pronunciation, I think. Was the most difficult part.
I'd say grammar and joining words probably most of all. Remembering exactly which things mean with and on, and the context in which they're used. Particularly difficult with the words for want and we and yeah.
What is the hardest isn't really vocab, because vocab is easy. It's like German, Swiss German, English, so there was only 3 languages. And the hardest part is accent. I really struggle with the accent.
The pronunciation I think is pretty easy, but knowing what to write down, because you don't know if it's going to be the special characters or not, yeah, that's a bit tricky, and I don't have anyone to practice with. practically no application for this. I'm just learning for fun, and it's the best.
Probably not having that many people to practice with. That's probably the hardest. And even when I am in Sweden, I end up not being able to practice because Swedes tend to get quite excited to use all the English they learn at school. So, and then when I see them get excited like that, I feel bad if I make them talk Swedish again. So, yeah, it's probably, it is just lack of people to practice with is the biggest challenge for me. And the R-rolls. The warm-up.
Now, languages can make for funny moments because certain words can mean certain different things depending on what language you speak. So, what are some of the funny parts about Swedish?
Well, there's some words that are exactly like in Spanish, but they mean different things. Like gris in Spanish is a color, but in Swedish it's pink. So that's funny. And I also have had some embarrassing moments with some Swedes. Like there was this friend who were like, oh, I don't look that good, I'm not that handsome, and I just wanted to help out and say, oh no, you look good, yeah, you're handsome. And I said something like, you need to use glasses.
Are you still friends?
Yeah, we're still friends.
And what's the funniest Swedish word?
Sköterska. Undersköterska. This is impossible to pronounce when you see it first time. It looks impossible to say, I guess.
Any final advice you want to give?
That's hard.
It's hard. Great advice there.
Yeah, maybe, I don't know, just find the funny thing, like what you like to learn and how you like. Like, for example, I like listening to music a lot and reading out loud, and that helps me a lot to practice and improve in the pronunciation. So it doesn't have to be boring, you just have to find...
Swedish, it doesn't have to be boring. Are there any similarities between your language and Swedish?
Oh, like a few words, but they don't really make sense because they're not related to each other. Maybe like a couple of words like apteka and apotek, but no, not really.
And how does it feel to be able to speak Swedish now?
Am I really able to speak Swedish? I don't know. I try my best, but it's cool to. I don't know. I work at my work, for example, when I have Swedish guests. It's really cool to talk to them, and they're always really happy about it. And yeah, it's cool to come here and be able to order tea. Yeah. Cool.
And white chocolate.
And white chocolate, yeah, of course.
So if all Swedish people suddenly stopped understanding English, how long would you survive in Sweden?
12 minutes 39 seconds, depending on how much I'd eaten before I got there.
So in conclusion, expose yourself to different forms of the language through popular culture like music, film and television, and as Anna said, make it fun. Do something that interests you. Use apps and make it a daily routine to keep track and keep memorizing and keep getting better. Of course, it always helps if you're actually in Sweden because, as Josh was saying, then everything is around you. But if you have a chance of meeting up with someone who is a Swede or who is also practicing Swedish, it's always easier to talk to someone. And if it is a Swede living where you live, maybe that person wants to learn your language, so it becomes a you scratch my back, I scratch your back, linguistically that is. So that was this week's video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you learned something. And again, if you are learning Swedish, please put your best advice in the comment section. And I will see you the next time you click on one of my videos.